Today we're going to go over the 5 Ableton tips you must know to kickstart your first track. Now these are 5 key tips that I wish I knew when I very first started writing music, and I'm happy I know them now, so let's go ahead and just share them with you. So the first one we're going to go over is audio versus MIDI. We're going to go over the differences between both of them and how you can use them, or pretty much you're going to get familiar with both of them and how to make your sound tighter. So now it's just going to go to preference from there. So for audio, I have this clap right here, and then I have the hat right here in MIDI. So let's go over audio first. Now when you pull out an audio sample, it's going to look just like this. So you'll just drag and drop it, boom. You're going to click warp. Now it's pretty much in lock to the BPM of your track. So mine right now is at 124, and you can see it right here at the top, 124. Now right here, you're going to go to preserve, transients. Click the arrow pointing to the right. You're going to see this box right here, which is a gate trigger. Now what that does for you is if you have it all the way open at 100, it's just going to have the sound completely open and full. Now it's going to decrease and start closing and sound tighter as you go down. So let's go ahead and show you what that sounds like with it open versus closed. Now keep in mind too, later on, you will start getting into a habit where you want to start consolidating these and make it pretty much full like this. So if you just highlight it, right click, and press consolidate. Now, I like doing that personally just because it makes it easier to just go over it like that. But whatever it is you do on these, let's say you do lower the transient and you do consolidate it, it's gonna pretty much pop up looking like this. So let's say you wanted that at 35. Let's go ahead and just get the other one on there too. Let's say you consolidate it. Now it's gonna show it at 100. It's still gonna sound tight. So whatever automation you did to make the sound tight at first, it's gonna sound like that regardless. So it saved that pretty much and just compressed it, consolidated, made it into like its own little loop. Now what you can do is if you go in, I believe you lower it, you can make it sound like pretty much tight again. It's the same exact process, but that's completely up to you. Now if you want to write in MIDI, a lot of people don't like writing in MIDI when they first start, just because when they put the sample in there, you don't know why it sounds so low, right? Trying to figure it out. A lot of people actually go to right here and they kind of just figure it's just the gain knob that's going to be going in the mixer. No, it's actually not. What it is actually the volume knob right here. It's already set to negative 12 dB. So no matter what sample you put in, it's going to sound super low at the very beginning. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and double click that, put it to 0. Now it's going to play at full volume. So now you don't have to worry about that. And that pretty much fixed that issue of it. If you ever had it sounding a little low and didn't know why, that's one main reason why. Another thing too is I didn't know how to make it sound tighter, but this will help you out. It's the same exact concept for audio. You're going to have it right here, this little section. It's going to say warp. You're going to go to beats. Then that section right here is going to pop up. This transients and the preserve menu is going to pop up right here on the MIDI. Yeah. Now you have that envelope right here. So that's one way you can do it. Or you can also just lower down the sustain and the decay, and it'll pretty much make it sound tighter. So that's going to be audio versus MIDI. That's 2 ways you can actually use them. And yeah, we're going to go on to step 2, which is actually going to be the groove. Now, when you're writing a groove, the great thing about that is you're going to have your options in the groove pool. That's going to allow it to swing. So it's going to add more movement to your drums. So you're going to right click on the browse library. A lot of people like to use MPC. I do that as well. Just go ahead and go over them, see which ones you like. Now, when you're doing that and you're working with top loops, here's another tip you can use for when you're writing grooves. So let's say you're at the top loop, right? Let's go ahead and just get rid of all these. Yeah. Say this is the top loop you want to work with. This is what it's going to sound like. Let's say you like that. Now the thing with some top loops is they already have swing inside of them. So that's one thing you have to work around and try to figure out. Now let's say you're using more than two or even just one. What you're going to want to do is this. You're going to right click on that top loop that you're using. You're going to go to extract grooves. Just let it do its thing. And then you're going to see it populate right here on the left hand side. Now another thing you want to take note of is the timing. So with the timing at 100, you're going to highlight all of these, all your drums that you have. Then this is going to populate open. Now you're going to, let's hear the difference. So as you can hear it right away, if you have it at 100, it sounds a bit all over the place, right? Kind of like you're live DJing and somebody's train wrecking. It's not the best sound, and yeah, it's going to be really hard to mix in a train wreck if you're already done making your track. So try to avoid that. So what you're going to do is you're going to extract that groove. You're going to go to your timing and then just go all the way down to like, I generally say like 25, no higher than 80%. It's just all taste and depends on what you like and what you feel. I think if it gets your head bobbing, you're ready to go and you're already grooving with the groove, you're like, all right, you know, this slaps even more. Just go ahead and commit that now. So what you're going to do is you're going to go down here, press commit. Now all these that you had highlighted in your drums, is you're going to see these little warp markers. Now what I did is pretty much just set up the swing for you. So let's go ahead and see what that sounds like. So now that groove that was on this bottom top loop is on all of your drums. Even on your MIDI. Just all right here. Good to go. Before we move on to grouping, here's another thing you can do. When you're choosing your top loops, and you have too many of them, it does create phasing. Now some have more hi-hats than others, and the stuff that you already use. So say you used 2 claps already just to layer them, 2 hi-hats, and the 2 loops or the 3 loops that you're already putting on top of there, they all have a hat and a clap that hit at the same time. Now what that's going to do is it's going to stack up and it's going to make it sound really bad. So what you want to do to avoid that is go into the loop that you have. So this one right here, it was a perk top. This is what it sounds like by itself. So when looking at your top loop, what you're going to look at is look at the one. The one right there is already having a kick. That's already at the top. Boom. So these two hitting together, you're going to hear the kicks just hitting. See how there's more of an accent when you do that? So now what you want to do to avoid that is look at all the elements that you have in your tracks and just subtract from there. So go to your loop and go right here. I took out the stuff that I liked from it, which was the toms. Now what you want to do for your toms is you're going to go into tuner. Let's pull one of those up. Here's another tip I wish I knew. Put it on your toms and your perks, any kind of loops you want. Let's say you're writing the track in F, for example. What you want to do is You don't have to tune your hi-hats, you don't have to tune your claps, things like that. That's just going to sound stereo, so it doesn't really matter. What you want to actually tune is percussive instruments, things like that. Some loops have a lot of them, so just do whatever, because that is actually going to go with your bass line and everything else in your track, and it's going to sound good together. Sometimes it sounds a little off, sometimes it doesn't. It just all depends. So let's say, for example, let's see if it pops up right here. So in these samples, you could already hear the hi-hat. If you don't want that, just cut it out and go to the frequency to where it's like, okay, all I hear is that percussive element. Now, when you're doing it, you're going to revert to the tuner. It's going to tell you what key it's in. Let's say it's hitting at a C sharp, right? Let's say your track is in F. What you're going to do is you're going to come in here. You can go to the transpose. Let's say go up 2 semitones, right? See what that looks like. Now that you went up, you found out where it's at. It was 4 semitones up. Boom. Now you're hitting an F. Now it's going to pretty much be in line with your bass line, your kick, everything else that you have. So that's one way to tune all your perks. And then this is what it sounds like all together. I don't have any bass lines in here, so you don't have to really worry about the tuning right now. This is just for example purposes. So let's hear the A and B with taking out elements and leaving in elements. So you can hear a big difference. There's a lot more room when you take out certain things that you don't want. Now, when you're doing that too, be mindful of this fader right here. Because sometimes when you're cutting, most of the time people just go in here. And you might even have that little extra right here, that little extra hit. Then you can hear it. So what you're going to want to do is try to come all the way down. There's nothing right there really, but I still like to do it just in case I miss anything. I just put it over just a little bit. Sometimes I throw this under because it's the same exact thing. And now you're pretty much good. And now you're not going to have any clashing or extra sounds, and you're going to probably hear like, sometimes you'll hear like a little bit of like white noise or little extra sounds that you didn't really anticipate, and you're going to be like trying to figure out where is that sound coming from. Most of the time, that's where it's coming from. So always double check that. The next tip, I would always say, once you're done and you like all this stuff that you have picked that you picked from your loops and everything else, you're going to want to go ahead and consolidate these things together. So you're going to highlight it, right click, go to consolidate, boom. I like doing this just because it makes it easier when you want to copy stuff over and not have to worry too much. So this next tip, grouping. So grouping your drums, making sure everything is there. You'll hear like a drum bus, stuff like that. People usually just have different names for it. I like to just highlight whatever I want. Boom. You're going to right click, group them, bam. Now they're all together. Instead of just being everywhere. And then before you know it, you're going to have like 25 different tracks. You don't know what's what. Everything just looks messy and disorganized. Sometimes even when you're doing collaborations too, you'll get other people's projects, or you even send your own and be like, hey, where's the kick at? Where's this at? What's this? A lot of people just have stuff that's unnamed, and that's another way you can fix it. Try to be a little bit more organized with it, just for you know where everything is at. Because when you're writing, it's easy to get lost in what you're writing and where everything's at. and then you're like, okay, cool, this sounds amazing. Where's the kick at? Because usually it'll just say audio track, or you'll just have like a bunch of like MIDIs just everywhere, and even if you have it saved, it'll just be like that, and you'll just have loads of them everywhere, kind of looking like this, and you'll be a little lost. But make sure to group them, name them. That's how you group them. To keep them all one color, you're gonna right click, assign track color to group tracks and clips. Boom. Now it's all one color. Add that to the group of your tracks, and it's gonna make it sound a lot cleaner. So let's hear with and without and how it sounds. Yeah, you're gonna have all your different knobs. So the drive is just pretty much just gonna see how much you want to taste. So you're looking at 100, it's gonna go full distortion. You want a little bit of distortion, just add whatever sounds good to you. The boom knob, now this one's actually really good. It's just the amount of low end that you have in there. So it just controls that. So say some of the toms are just hitting a little too bassy, or they're not hitting enough, or the low end in your tracks just aren't really hitting like that. Just hit the boom knob, you should be good to go. Choose what frequency that you want it at, the damp. Now this is going to control the output. So with everything, it's going to sound like, obviously all the way down, you're not going to get anything, and then moving it up. That's another tip to make your drums sound a lot fuller. Now for your kick, here's one I wish I knew. I was always having trouble not just finding the right sound, but trying to make it cut through the mix. And every time I had a kick, I didn't know why. I always put a compressor at the end. That's one thing you shouldn't have done, or I shouldn't have done when I very first started. But I would always recommend this plugin right here called Kick Tweak. Now Kick Tweak is actually really good. The thing with Kick Tweak, it's pretty much just designed to boost the weight and presence of your kick in the track. So you have all these different presets right here on the right. Just choose which one that you think sounds good for your kick. So this is with and without it. Yeah, it's pretty much makes it sound night and day. And just go from there, and that'll make your kick stand out more. Now for the next and last tip number 5, here's one I wish I knew when I very first started. Usually when you're writing, you find yourself stuck, right? In order to get out an 8-bar loop land, or just even 2 bars, or even trying to figure out where to go next, what you're going to do is just go grab a reference track that you like and put it at the top. So this one right here is 124. You're going to go all the way down, and then just right click right here, set 1.1 to here. Boom. Now everything is pretty much in line for the most part. What you're going to do is just drag this all the way to the very front of your project. And now the next thing you're going to do is this pretty much just a blueprint of how a track would be structured out. So you can go right here at the beginning, is like, oh, this is the intro. You can right click, Command R, and you can just put intro. What you want to do as well is choose a track that you like at the moment. Go to Beatport. On Beatport, at the bottom of the track, it'll tell you the key of the track, when it was released, the BPM, and how long it is as well. but you're going to see how long it is, especially when you drag and drop it. So from there, and you get the key of the track, look at the key of the track and look at all these other tracks that you genuinely like and why you like playing them out. So ask yourself, why do I like playing this song out? What is it about this track? Look at the key, look at the time, and look how it's structured out. That'll tell you the reason why you like that track. So choose that key and just start writing in it. And then now you'll start finding your quote unquote own sound. And that's another thing too. So let's say you start structuring it out. This right here, if you already DJ and start getting into everything else as well, you'll start to learn how to read waveforms. So you can tell right here, it's like really nothing in the track. It's just the intro. This one right here is probably with the bass. So you just can put add bass or take off auto filter on kick. Boom. Now you have that. Then you look right here, you can clearly see this is a break. So you're just going to say, hey, break to build. And then this right here is probably pretty much going to be the drop. And then you're just going to go so on and so forth with that. And that's going to be the process of that. So let's say you have your loop right here. You're going to copy it. You're going to bring it all the way down to the bottom. And then just stem it out from there. Be like, hey. And you see how it starts to look like pretty much a track. So you have this tracker here at the top. Use it as a tool to pretty much gauge where you want to go with yours. Delete it after a while. Boom. Now you have your intro. Now you know when to add things. You're going to have your break right here. As you saw in the reference track, it was a little bit light on the break. There's no kicks. So what you're going to want to do now is just go in, take out your kick, and then right here there's no drums. Take out your drums. And then now, you know that's where that goes. And then when you're done with it, bam. Now everything is pretty much just going to go structured like that. And you can structure your track just around these other tracks that you enjoy. It's not saying you're going to sound like them, but it's going to give you a general idea as to where to go after you found your groove, you found your bass lines, you found all the elements you want in your specific track. That's one big key tip that you can definitely use. A lot of people like to use reference tracks to see where the mix and master is going to be sitting at, but that's later on. You don't really have to worry about that right now. Or even if you are at that stage, using reference tracks as well from when you're doing your mixing stage is also really good because you can compare them side by side. Why does this sound this way? Why does your track sound like that? And how can you get it like that? So you get more of a general idea. But I hope these 5 tips helped you out. I have the stuff inside of the description, so you're going to go ahead and get some of the samples that are in here. But also too, in the description, I do have a PDF that you can get. It's $10 right now. It has a lot of tips. It goes more in depth with writing grooves, using writing in MIDI, where to get your samples, how to use your samples, and it has a bunch of other extra tips just to like push you to that next level of getting over the barrier of being a very beginner. So I hope all these tips help you out. Click the link in the description, and if you guys have any questions, follow us, like, share, and subscribe, and hit up the DMs. I'll be more than happy to even answer any of your questions there. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and try to make as much house music as we can together and learn. I hope to put out more videos, more content, and I hope it's valuable for you guys. But thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Peace.